Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cause I Said So,
the finance episode.
the finance episode.
It's finally here,
And
Mom. We're
yes,
so excited.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
So Emily is a professor at Cornell SC Johnson College of Business. She's a consumer psychologist who studies how couples make financial decisions. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, the best part about her is she's extremely smart.
Wait, that's so nice of you to say.
You're welcome, Em. Yeah, I know you can
Don't
hear
mistake
me.
And
different
also-
Emily, guys. Different Emily.
Yeah, she is very articulate, very intelligent, but very well-spoken and can...
She's conversational.
Yes, very
She doesn't say it
conversational.
to you where she crams it down your
No,
throat.
she made it very fun and
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, and it kind of exciting, actually.
Yes, very exciting.
I'll say this too. It's not super. It's not a. I don't know how else to say this besides it's not a very smart conversation. It was conversational. It's abstract. It's sexy.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend said when he left, he was like, she makes finance sexy.
She does, and she also made it attainable.
Yes,
for
and
everyone.
Relatable and applicable.
Relatable, yes. Okay, everyone. We want to thank Mamitas for being our sponsor.
I love Mamitas, but Mom, you love.
I do love Mamitas, and they sent me it's a book that has recipes that you can use to make with the different drinks they have, and it's their playbook, which I loved that.
Oh, it's a playbook for your cocktails of the week.
Yes, but Cause I Said So is presented by Mamitas.
Which is a hard seltzer tequila that comes in 4 delicious flavors: pineapple, paloma, lime, and mango.
And you can get Mamitas variety pack where?
At Gopuff or drinkmamitas.com. It is less than 1 gram of sugar, 95 calories, gluten-free, and I like to coin it the no hangover drink.
Yes, it is. It's really good.
Yeah, we're getting really into Mamitas. And a lot of you guys are trying it, and I haven't heard one bad feedback.
I haven't either, and I get a lot of comments, a lot of DMs about, I tried it this weekend and I loved it. I will definitely be drinking it more, and I love that.
I agree. Okay, so we have 2 questions to go over, you and I, before we get into the finance episode. But I want to say that these were my favorite things she covered. I loved how she talked about how to handle when one person spends more in the relationship. She gets into that. She gets directly into joint bank accounts versus separate bank accounts. She has like hard statistics on which recipe makes the happier couple, which is very interesting.
It was very interesting.
Talks about forming your own decision from your parents and finances.
Learning.
Yeah.
But having this discussion right off the bat.
Yes, she talks
And
about
about
that.
making it I love the part about making it a monthly or a weekly or a monthly dinner.
And why to do that.
And why to do that. But that just opens it up to, it's an easy conversation instead of a stressful one.
Yes, so definitely stay and listen to that because the second that the interview was over, everybody in the room was like, whoa, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So enjoy. Okay, Mom, speaking of finances, what is one area that Content Kim likes to splurge?
If I'm going to splurge on something, it's going to be a pair of good shoes,
Okay.
pretty shoes, or a purse. I mean, those are the most expensive items I would splurge on.
That you like to buy.
Yeah, for myself.
Yeah. For me, it was easy for me to work backwards from this. Like I don't like to splurge on like jeans or like a top because I think those are like rinse and repeat. I love to splurge on blazers and jackets, like
Yeah, that's good.
like an art piece kind of jacket or something. A staple that will last a long time, but is kind of a statement. Okay, Mom, what's one thing you wish you knew at my age about finances?
At your age, and I was married, what I wish I knew about finances.
Correct.
Yes. It would be communicating it with my husband, like how to have that conversation in a way that was not an argumentative one, or just stick to the budget and this is how it is and this is what we're doing. Instead of, we didn't have that conversation about, oh, I want to do this when I get this way, or I feel this way about buying that, or this makes me happy, or this does that. We had a little bit of that, but we didn't have like a game plan on that.
Would you say finances used to be so black and white, and I'm gonna paint the worst stereotype here, but it was like a husband that worked and then their wife was at home and he was like, you're gonna spend X on this, and it was kind of that?
No.
It wasn't that.
For me?
No, for people. Like, isn't that kind of the older stereotype, or is that not?
I think that's the older stereotype, but I don't think it's like, this is what you're going to spend it on. This is how much you're going to get to spend.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
Like, here's like an allowance almost.
An allowance.
Yes.
That was kind of what it was, especially like for my mom's age. I don't think they knew, like even when my parents got divorced, I think she was like clueless.
Right.
Totally like, what do I do?
And I think these are questions everyone has, and Emily does a really good job explaining them.
She makes it more interesting and more fun instead of we have got to save this money for this right now, no matter what we have to do. Sacrifice everything.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be like that.
She makes it fun and sexy.
She sure does.
Mom, what are you doing next week?
I'm going on a trip with your dad.
You're going to be Gone.
Yeah, I'm going to be Gone.
You're going to be gone. You're going on vacation.
I'm going on vacation.
Is it going to be a hot or a cold vacation?
A hot vacation.
Are you ready to go?
Pretty much.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited.
What are you going to do for the cocktail of the week while you're gone?
I'm going to have someone bring it to me.
Somebody's going to bring you a cocktail?
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so cute. You're like, this week you deserve a vacation. Somebody brings you a drink.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Or maybe I'll have someone make it in front of me.
Yes.
I don't know what I'll do.
You'll have to be creative.
I will be.
I was thinking it'd be fun on Instagram if while you were gone, you did like an Instagram takeover of Content Kim's vacation.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Like
I'll try that. Just don't get me in trouble.
No, if you just do all the like do some selfies with your sun hat on, your sunglasses.
Okay.
I think that would be cute.
Okay.
I think what I'm going to do next week is a solo episode. I don't know. Like I don't want to. I wanted to have my husband Graham on again, but he's out of town next week. Also, everyone's leaving me, so we'll see what happens. Nope, okay. I don't know. I don't want to say for sure.
And also, this month is Women's History Month.
Yes, you've been loving that. What would you like to say?
I would like to say I wonder if women a long time ago dropped the F-bomb like they do now. Like it is everywhere. They're going to have to change the dictionary explanation of what the F-bomb is because it's more like an adjective just describing everything.
Wait.
So even on the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I noticed this season it's a lot more of the F-bomb than it was in the other two seasons, and I don't know what this is about.
That's what it was. That's what sparked the thought in your head, right?
Yeah,
you feel like they're saying it a lot.
I didn't notice them saying it in the other two seasons as much as this season. Did women really back in those days cuss? Like that seems like they might be just shunned.
If anybody knows the answer to that, please holler.
Yeah, text us. DM us. DM us.
You can DM Kim on Twitter. Actually, your DMs are closed on Twitter.
I don't even know what that means.
I wanted to read some of them because I saw those guys were tweeting you about it.
What does that mean?
Like your DMs, like your direct messages.
How are they closed?
I don't know. I saw that guy. So somebody.
How do you open them?
Somebody messaged Kim and was like, "What was that 25-year-old saying?"
I had to Google how to DM. I didn't know you could DM in Twitter, and I had to Google how to do it, but I couldn't figure it out. So I'm DMing you on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Kim's in the DMs. I was going to read some of them today if you had them, but I guess they're closed.
On Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get them open, everybody.
Yeah. Don't you worry. We'll open the floodgates. All right. Well, Mom, you ready to get into it?
Yes.
Without further ado, Finance Emily.
Yay.
Hello, Emily.
Hello.
Welcome to 'Cause I Said So. We obviously, as you know, are the mother-daughter show here at Barstool. And one day found ourselves down a rabbit hole talking about couples' finances, didn't we, Mom?
Yes, we did.
And we found that we structured our finances differently, but also while we were having the conversation, we realized we don't know anything. Like, we shouldn't have been talking about it because we quickly were like, wait, we have no idea. So let's find somebody that will help us. And then through the lovely Instagram, we found you.
Yes, so
Yes,
exciting.
I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming down from Ithaca, which you said is 4 hours away?
Yes, approximately.
Approximately, but you took a bus or a train? A bus.
I took a bus.
A bus.
Yeah, Cornell has a nice campus-to-campus bus that I was able to take, so it's great.
What does a scholarly girl like you do on a bus for 4 hours?
Well, the bus left at 5:45 a.m.,
Oh.
so I spent about 3 of the 4 hours sleeping. And then when the sun came up, I checked email.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were like watching a show.
Reading.
No, that was the plan, but getting up at 4 a.m. proved to be much more challenging than previously anticipated. So,
Yeah.
I slept for most of the bus ride.
And you're staying in New York for 2 nights.
Yes.
Last night and then tomorrow night.
Yes.
Or tonight.
Yes, tonight.
Very good. Okay. So let's just get into it, Mom.
Okay.
You want to ask you want to fire off the first question?
It's a pretty basic one, but what are the basic must-dos for newlyweds or people living together, cohabitating?
So first thing I would say is to sit down and have a conversation about money. One of my favorite quotes from a journalist is that people are more comfortable getting physically naked than they are financially naked. So even though it could be an awkward conversation, I think it's an important one to have. If your partner has debt, that's something you need to know about. If your partner likes to save money, that's something you need to know about. And I think one of the key things that you want to hash out during this initial conversation is how you're going to handle shared expenses. Are you going to put money into a joint bank account and pay for your shared expenses from that? Are you going to keep your money separate and then just split shared expenses down the middle? Will it be based on a proportion of your income? Coming up with some sort of plan and communicating that plan to one another is crucial.
Do you recommend, I think let's dive into the joint bank account versus separate bank account. Do you recommend one over the other? Do you have statistics? Like, can we talk about that? That I think is like the number one question we've been getting. Joint, separate, what do we do? And let's assume they're married, but that also qualifies for a couple that lives together that will be married.
Or does it?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So I will say in my work, when I look at couples, I look at people that are in committed romantic relationships. And by committed, that typically means living together. So we're seeing younger generations put off marriage for longer and longer. But ultimately, if they're living together, I don't see them behaving very differently than a married couple.
Okay.
So coming back to your first question about joint versus separate bank accounts. So I actually also find this question really interesting. What should couples do with their finances? And so to answer this question, one of the things that I was interested in looking at is, do joint versus separate bank accounts affect happiness in the relationship? And so to get at this, my co-authors and I looked at multiple surveys, so publicly available longitudinal surveys where people were assessed at multiple points in time. And we found very consistent effects that on average, people who pool all of their money together are more satisfied in their relationship than couples that keep their finances completely separate. And then there are some couples that use a hybrid approach. So they have some money in joint bank accounts and some money in separate bank accounts. And their happiness in the relationship falls right in the middle. So they're right in between the joint and separate account holders.
And then what if they're totally separate? Is that the
Yeah,
the
that's
least
the
happy?
lowest. Yeah, they're the least happy, and they're also the most likely to break up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does it get down to using like our money versus your money? Like, how do you find that couples will start to communicate that way? Like when they make a large purchase, do they start arguing over like, I don't know, is it can you say something off of that? I don't know the exact question I want to ask you.
Yeah, so we did look at pronouns, right? What pronouns are people using when they talk about money? And to look at this question, we actually scraped people's posts off of publicly available financial message boards like Reddit. And when people talk about their money in joint or separate bank accounts, they use very different words. So when people talk about money from a joint account, they refer to it as our money. When they talk about money that's in a separate account, it's my money. And so it's interesting because these pronouns have an effect on us over time, right? If you're constantly talking about something that's ours versus something that's yours or mine, it can affect how we see the relationship. It can affect how committed we think the other person is to the relationship. And so other researchers have looked at how powerful the use of language is over time, and this is one practical instance that we see of that money in a joint versus separate account influences how you talk about it, which then influences what perceptions or feelings you might have about your relationship.
Even if one person makes astronomically more money, even in that scenario, you find if it's a joint account that it's better.
I do. Yes.
Wow. Okay, what about the stay-at-home mom who makes no money, but her husband, is the one that works and he gives her money, but she feels guilty about that, or he makes her feel guilty about that? Do you find them calling it their money, or do you think she feels like it's his money?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we do see cases where stay-at-home moms feel bad about spending money that they don't earn. And it's something that personally makes me really sad because she shouldn't have to feel that way. they're married. In my opinion, any money that the husband earns is money that goes towards the couple. And her job of a stay-at-home mom helps facilitate his ability to earn money. And so when it comes to stay-at-home moms, I don't think that they should feel bad about having to spend money that they technically didn't earn. And also, I think it's good and healthy for both members of the couple to be involved in these financial decisions. So I think it's problematic when just one member of the couple is making all of these financial decisions, because what were to happen, and not to bring this to a dark place, but what were to happen if the primary earner suddenly passes away? You don't want the stay-at-home mom to be in a situation where she doesn't know what to do or feels overwhelmed by these financial decisions because she just left all of those responsibilities to her husband.
Wow. Okay, do you often find that the CFO, I guess, the person that makes the financial decisions, is typically the woman?
So what research has shown is that this is changing over time. So in the past, in more traditional marriages, if you will, where the husband was the primary earner and the wife stayed at home, it used to be the case that the wife served as the CFO. So she would manage the finances while the husband earned them. Now with this shift in earning, where we see these really great changes where some women are earning more than their husbands, we see these roles tend to be dispersed a little bit. And what we also find is that who serves as the CFO typically isn't the person with the most financial knowledge. It's typically the person that has the most time to do the job.
Wow.
And so does the CFO actually, are they in charge of making the investment decisions too? Is that what you're?
Yes, investment decisions, paying the bills.
I mean, paying the bills, I can see that's one thing, but like doing the investing and choosing what you're investing in, and
yes, it varies by couple. But when we talk about CFO, it's the person that makes the majority of the financial decisions.
So when you said, like, right out of the gates, you think the most important thing that a couple can do is, like, have a conversation about it, you recommend it being, like, a co-CFO situation where they're constantly talking about it.
That's correct. So an initial conversation is important, but then this is a good point that I should be more specific about. Regular conversations are also important. Mm-hmm. So something that I would recommend is akin to maybe a financial date night every month. So if you want to do it the first of the month or the first Thursday of the month, but I think having regular conversations is important. Something I would also recommend, if you think a month is too much time, there are lots of couples budgeting apps out there that I would recommend couples think about using.
Okay, so two things off that, but the first one is, we were talking earlier and you were like, I mean, the $1 million question is how to make saving more fun. Yeah. And you're like, there's no way to do it. Like, apps is one way, but would another one be, or is there some way around, like, if you know you're going to have the date night, like, somehow, because I think the other thing is, I know you're going to recommend or say what people suggest is the amount that you should save monthly, but how can you tie into a date night, or, like, what are ways around that you could make it fun or, like, incentivize each other?
Yeah, so I think during the date night, would be a good time to come up with some common financial goals. And one of those goals could be some sort of amount that you're striving to save. And so then you can imagine that now saving just isn't about me not being able to spend money on fun things, but it's about, well, when it comes to the date night, how can I bring to my partner, show my partner how much money I've now contributed towards our mutual goal. And I think when you tie someone else to that, potentially it could be seen as more fun.
But did you mean having an idea of what they were actually saving for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of now saving, the number one question on Instagram is, like, just point blank, how much do I save? Like, yeah, I think 20-somethings have no idea. People say you should be saving, and then I used to read about our generation is like, we don't even have $100 saved, especially in your early 20s, because you just live paycheck to paycheck. But ideally, how much should somebody try to save?
Yes, so I would say the most common advice that's given is that you should aim to save about 20% of your paycheck each month.
That is so
But spread
hard.
diversified.
Yes.
Not in
So
one
not
spot.
all in one place.
So that's the diversified portfolio. Is that what we're saying?
I think a lot of people think when you say portfolio, that's your stock portfolio or something, right? So it would be your 401k, your cash savings account, and maybe some investments.
Correct.
So on that, what do you think about, and you touched on it a little bit, but couples getting a financial advisor? Like, do you think that's one of the best? Is it almost like in line with a marriage counselor, like just go ahead and get a financial advisor?
I think it's a resource that not enough people use. And what I will say is that if couples get a financial advisor, I would recommend that both of them go to see the advisor together.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you often see is it's a matter of time, right? You have to make an appointment with the advisor. Maybe only one of the couple members is available at that particular time, but then you're relying on the person that's there to communicate it to the other person. And I think it's important for both of them to be there together and receive the advice from the advisor at the same time so that they both have a chance to ask questions.
But I think a lot of people don't see a financial advisor early on because they think I don't have enough money to see a financial advisor. And is that's not a true state? I mean, can you see one when you're just beginning with nothing really, like to get a plan?
Yes, so, a financial advisor can help you put your savings plan together.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think that's one of the misconceptions people have is they think, oh, that's not for me or I'm not going to like doing that. But I think that it's something that's important, especially when you start having children, because college is so expensive. Mm-hmm. I think it's never too early to start saving for your kids' college.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
that's what's good about the date. I love the date night thing because it makes it like if you don't talk about it on a consistent basis, it's very stressful to talk about it when you do, and then everyone's emotions are really high, and you probably don't accomplish very much. Whereas if it's just a consistent conversation that you have all the time, it's more natural and easy and not as stressful.
Absolutely. And I think if somebody threw it out earlier, if finances is one of the most common causes for divorce or breaking up, like just staying ahead of that, I feel like would be so important. Like it's as important as like your nighttime routine or just like self-care or like going to therapy, just like staying ahead of things before
It's like,
things hit the fan.
It is as important as your marriage. It's like when you have kids, then you have date night with the babysitter. It's just kind of that same thing, I think.
Absolutely.
Just,
It's a good
preservation
parallel.
or whatever.
Okay, so if one person in the couple tends to spend a lot more money or like have more reckless financial habits, and the other one's trying to get them on the same page and like they are having conversations about it, like one of them is willing to be like, it's me, like I spend too much, and the other one's like, I want to save more, and here's why. What are good conversational tips around that?
Well, I think that when you're talking about something that's kind of stressful like that has the potential to lead to a big fight, it's important to phrase things in terms of how it's making you feel. So you don't want to make the other person, you don't want to tell them how they should be doing things or make them feel bad. You just need to phrase it in terms of, hey, when you spend money on X, this is how it makes me feel. And these are some things that I need to see from our financial situation, and I don't feel like I'm getting that from you. So, what we know from research actually is that tightwads, so people that tend to be really stingy with their spending, are attracted to spendthrifts, so people that tend to spend their money more freely. So sort of like an opposites attract type of phenomenon. But then money ends up being something, unsurprisingly, that they fight about in their relationship. And so you don't want the tightwad to be making the spendthrift feel bad, right? But you just need to sort of work with them on what areas can they compromise. Is there maybe some sort of number that they can't go over each month in terms of their spending? So just some sort of plan. So just like any other fight, it's all about compromise.
Okay, so that just kind of makes me think about the way we're taught finances. So like arriving to the party, like arriving to the relationship or your marriage, being like, well, my mom and dad taught me X, but your mom and dad taught you X. But nobody has like any hands-on knowledge. We're just going off. It's like voting, you just there's that subject. So what do you think about that? Breaking away from your parents or learning on your own?
Yeah, so I think that it's true that parents are one of the number one influences we have when it comes to our finances, but I also think it's important, like voting, for us to form our own opinions. And that's another reason why I think a financial advisor could be so instrumental. Because, couple dynamics are changing. How much money people are earning within the relationship is changing. And so taking time to sit down and reflect on these things rather than just go with whatever knowledge our parents have given to us, I think is something that's important.
Do you have any questions on that, like forming your own decisions?
No, I definitely think you should. It's just, I think getting financial information to form your own opinion is harder. I don't know why. I mean, I watch CNBC every morning, and even those guys on there all have a different philosophy. But like when I first got married and I was trying to decide what church, like I thought I'm going to make my own decision on what religion I want to raise my kids, even though I was raised certain ways. It was easy to find that. It's kind of black and white. But I feel like finances, like I don't have a number mind at all. It just isn't there. So that would be very hard for me to navigate, to try to find out exactly what I thought about that. I don't know. I would just kind of have to default to my husband, I think.
Well, that's where I think the financial advisor is I think you're right. The biggest thing is people don't get it because they're like, I don't have enough money to get it. Why would I want one? But if it's that important,
that would have been very helpful probably when I was first married to have that guidance. Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I find with my friends, all of my friends, and I think this happens a lot in your 20s and 30s, are at different stages. Some are married and have kids. Some are still single. Do you think that women and men, but the way I grew up is like you would never talk about money or like the way you're investing or what you're doing. Do you think that should be more of an open conversation, or do you think that's like rude, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely don't want to talk about it on your first date.
Right.
But so personally, I've always been of the opinion that transparency is key. And I have some research on financial infidelity, so what happens when people hide saving or spending from their partner. And what I find is that if you're not open about these things and you hide things from your partner, that hurts your relationship over time. And so I think that being open and honest about that is something that is really important. What I also know, and this is from research that's not my own, is that we see trends. If you look specifically at couples where the woman earns more than the man, on average, men tend to experience psychological distress from this situation. So to some extent, it can bruise their ego a bit, and we see that decreases their relationship satisfaction over time. The exception is when they go into the relationship knowing that their partner earns more. So once again, transparency is key. So we see marital selection where the man knows full well upon marriage that, you know what, my wife makes more money than me and I'm totally okay with that. It's when he finds out after the marriage that we see these detrimental effects. So communication, transparency, honesty, they're key. So can't say that enough.
That makes me think, do you interview or talk to a lot of people who have the stay-at-home dad?
I have not personally interviewed a lot of people that have the stay-at-home dad. I would like to as part of my research, but why do you ask?
Well, I'm just curious how that would go. Like, would the guy ever feel guilty about my wife putting money in my account or whatever? Like, would that ever...
She said the bruised ego, which I think...
But I mean, if you're the stay-at-home dad, you're not going to have a bruised ego if you kind of have that role, I wouldn't think.
Oh, as opposed to like two working people and him just making less.
Right. If he's just the stay-at-home dad and she's the one making all the money, does the same dynamic happen just like it does for some women? I'm just curious.
Like he feels bad.
Like, I want to go buy a suit and it's going to cost this much, but it's not for the family. I feel kind of guilty. It's not my money. She made it. I'd just be curious if that would be a thought process a guy would ever have.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I do know that what researchers have looked at is how much meaning you derive from your work, or how meaningful you think your life's work is. So if a person is a stay-at-home dad, it could be that earning money is just not that important to him because that's not his primary role within the relationship. And so, it would be something interesting to look at. I think now there isn't enough publicly available data on that type of couple because we're just starting to see these trends happen. But I think over time, once that becomes available, it would be fascinating.
It would be fascinating. I love it, though. I love the stay-at-home
You
dad.
do love the stay-at-home
Yeah,
dad
I think
thing.
it's so awesome.
It's incredible that we've even gotten there as a society, that because why was it ever the other way around?
Right.
Okay, so would you say that would this be a correct statement in your opinion? There's no set right or wrong way for a couple to organize finances. It's just most important to have a conversation about it and be completely transparent.
That would be my key takeaway, yes. Communication and transparency is key.
What would be your second key takeaway?
So second key takeaway, I would say there's a lot of couples budgeting apps out there. Use them.
Do you have any suggestions of ones that you like?
I like Honeydew.
Okay.
Okay.
I would recommend that one. What I like about it is that when you go to set up the app, it gives you options of what you want to share. And so even though I would recommend sharing everything, it can give you options like which bank accounts you want to share. Do you just want to share the total amount available, or do you want to give your partner access to specific transactions? So you can share to your comfort level, but I think it's something that could be important and helpful in facilitating a conversation.
Okay, I like that. That goes back to my favorite thing you've said so far is like if there was a disagreement. Because if you think that the key takeaway is, and I agree with this, is that you should have a conversation, then I guess dropping right below that would be all these disagreements I can think of in my head of like X is hiding their spending, or like what if I don't want him to know this, but blah 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 blah, and it's just the way that you approach that conversation was not being so direct or saying this is right or wrong, but just talking about how it makes you feel. I've never thought about like bringing that side of things to finances, and I'm like, that just makes all the sense in the world. What's your key takeaway?
No, I think that's very true. And I do think, however, there are some people who are just so money-minded. Like when you were talking about the compromise, well, the spender, I feel like, is the one always having to compromise, because the one that's not spending, it's not a lot of compromise. They're just trying to get you to compromise by not spending so much, so that you'll be on the same page of them as save that money because that's so important. I think that's probably, I can see why that's the biggest fight for people and the hardest thing to come together on. But the only way you're going to be able to get to it is by having conversations to where it's an easy conversation.
Yeah, and if you don't have a conversation, right, what's going to happen is that by the time you finally get there, you're going to be yelling at one another, and then it won't be a useful or productive conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Do you find that it's harder for somebody like, so you've been married for 33 years, like for her to implement this now? If she started calling my dad, telling him how she felt, he'd be like, where'd this come from? So like the younger the better. Do you think like implementing these things like right off the bat can be the change?
I mean, I think just like with anything, getting into a habit or routine is good. And so it will be more challenging to sort of change how you're structuring the relationship now. At the same time, change can be invigorating. So it could be fun to sort of spice it up and have a financial date night.
That would actually be fun. Or to say, if you weren't the one that's the CFO, being like, I just want to know more about the finances. Also, there's still that point. Actually, this is probably more applicable to people that are older, is if there is the deemed CFO in the relationship, God forbid something happens to that person, though, but you just have no clue.
Yes, but I do know all these things.
I wasn't.
I thought you were directing it.
No. I'm just like thinking about our different ages, and I was like,
right. No, I think that happens to a lot of people, and even more so to my mother's age group. When their spouse died, they didn't know anything. Like, it was not even know where the accounts are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think now that's changed more, but I still think there's a lot of people who don't know what to do if that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna implement the monthly date night. We should probably pick somewhere cost effective for our date
I love
night.
it. Or stay at home with a bottle of wine.
Yeah. We'll just cook at home. That's the best one. Well, I think we can. I mean, that was
a lot of
ton of
information.
info. Everyone's going to be so happy. Emily, thank you.
Yes, we've been having we kind of were slow to get you here, but everyone was very excited. So that's great.
I was so excited to be here. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Emily, so much. We appreciate it. Lots of value.
All right, thank you.
Well, Mom.
Wow, that was really good.
What's going to be the first thing you change in your life? I'm implementing date night.
Oh, I'm going to do that too.
You can't take mine. You got to think of something else. I'm going to start. No, you know what it is? Graham's our CFO. I'm going to start Now.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Okay, everyone record this. Remember that Alex is saying that she's going to learn some of this.
No, I am. I want to know more of what's going on. I think it's good. But she's so right. There's always a dedicated person in the relationship. Isn't it you and yours?
No.
Oh, it's him. Dad?
I mean, see, we're different because I pay all the bills and do all that kind of stuff. But then he does everything else. So.
Right. Okay. Well, I thought it was good. Also,
we work together, Alex.
You guys are a TEAM. I don't know why I'm into spelling today.
But we've always had a separate account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she was fabulous. I think everyone will learn a lot. She's not your traditional financial planner.
She's not a financial planner.
Right. No, I'm sorry. She's not your, like, when you hear a finance episode, I think you think traditional finance planner coming on with like hard-driven data,
right?
In black
she
and white
has hard-driven data on relationships with money and and life and happiness.
Yes,
which is really what you really want to know about.
She said she focuses on the consumer, not the investor. So since she's on the individual level, back in school, they put that into the marketing. Like she was saying, she took marketing classes.
Yes, but I think her marketing classes are not what you're thinking of as marketing.
No, but it's less.
She had her PhD in marketing.
Yes, yeah. But there's also what was your degree? You first
communications.
Yeah, marketing and communications, which is a different kind of marketing.
Right. No, right. I don't think she's like learning how to sell things, but
right.
I'm just saying it's not as finance background driven. Like this is something that could be more applicable.
Right.
Like anybody can implement into their lives having a conversation, talking about how they feel instead of saying you should do this.
Yeah,
I love that.
Compromising.
Yes.
Setting in place the basic things to make your life, because the number one reason people get divorced, or for number 1 and 2, is money and sex.
There.
And what'd she say? Because there's not enough.
Yeah, because there's not enough of either. That's funny. Yeah, so go have a conversation with your significant other. Anyone can do it.
Good luck.
Mom, have fun on your vacation. We're gonna miss you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you.
Oh, well, we love you guys too.
See you I'll see you in 2 weeks, and she'll see you next week.
See you next week.